This is Travion Rogers.
Oh, you gotta pay up something, bro. Pay that tab. Pay that tab. You know what's up, Stecker?
Now you're probably asking yourself, how did this man end up in a fetal position outside of a restaurant about to get mauled by a couple of grown men? Well, we're going to get to that answer shortly. But before we get there, though, let's speak about Travion Rogers' week. See, Travion Rogers just went viral this week for something pretty magnificent and unique.
What has been the most amount of money that you ever made in a single year?
In a single year? It's a lot. Someone can say, hey, I have a net worth of $1 billion, but at the end of the day, you don't have $1 billion liquid. So, I mean, it's more of what do you have as far as your portfolio. So portfolio range, about 420.
What's that?
420 million.
If you're like me, the minute you heard 420 million, you automatically assume this man is capping. Because the Rick and Morty drip don't really scream 420 million. But a lot of us thought, you know what? Bruh, we're being prejudiced. Let's give this man the benefit of the doubt. Let him tell us exactly how he made 420 million.
What industry did you ultimately pursue a career in?
I started off in oil and gas as a project manager. From being a project manager, starting off as an angel investor, and then from an angel investor, had a few successful exits, or quite a few. And then I started my own private equity firm.
What was the biggest risk that you ever took throughout your career?
Snapchat was.
How so?
They were raising their seed round in 2010, and I ended up investing pretty much everything as a project manager. Just my salary, 80 grand at that time. That was a lot. That was a big risk, but I mean, it paid off.
How much did you ultimately make off Snapchat?
So I was a board member of Snap. I actually retired about 3 years ago. So I mean, from just Snap and all the other companies in my portfolio, probably about 72.
What is the biggest thing in your opinion that takes a business from 7 to 8 and eventually 9 figures? How can someone really scale and grow their business in today's world?
Marketing. You ask any investor, they're going to tell you marketing. I can sell shit, literally, and people will buy it. Mind you, it might not be everyone that'll buy it, but if I market it right, there will be hundreds of millions of people that actually invest into that. It doesn't matter what it is that you're selling, what it is that you're presenting, same thing with your channel. If you can market it right, then people are going to come. That's literally all it is.
People were really captivated by Travion Rogers' story. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. Now, some people defended him against critics, some even saying, listen, like his presentation means nothing. I know a lot of people who don't come off as rich but turn out they are really rich. And people even said, yo, people only think he's lying because he's black. If this was a white man, y'all wouldn't think so. As more discourse around this viral video began to take place, curiosity began to creep up on people, and they wanted to know, who is this guy? He never stated his name in the viral video, so folks began to use the context clue he's provided in his interview in terms of his profession, his job history, his investments, etc., etc. Now, one of the things he said was he was a board member for Snapchat at some point. Now, there was only one black board member for Snapchat, and that was Kenny. So people automatically assume, yo, this is Kenny Mitchell. They look nothing alike, but folks probably assume he got older, his beard came in, so maybe he looked like the original Kenny Mitchell somewhere under that beard. And people began to tag Kenny Mitchell, asking him, yo, is this you in this video? Well, the real Kenny Mitchell responded back and said, no, that's not me. That's when things began to get really weird, because if this is not Kenny Mitchell, and Kenny Mitchell is the only black board member for Snapchat, then who is this guy claiming he was a board member on Snapchat? Who is this guy claiming he was one of the first investors into Snapchat and made $70 million from Snapchat? Who is this billionaire angel investor? Thanks to some friends of his from high school, we found out who he was. And it's probably one of the most insane stories you've ever heard. See, his name is not Kenny Mitchell. His name is Travion Rogers from Katy, Texas. Thanks to his family and friends, we found out what his real name was and started to do some digging. But we didn't have to dig too far until finding out that he wasn't who he said he was. He wasn't a billionaire angel investor. He wasn't a board member on Snapchat. He wasn't a project manager. He wasn't a millionaire or billionaire or an investor at all. He was simply a con man, a scammer. And thanks to his family and friends, we got taken down a rabbit hole I couldn't believe. See, before Travion Rogers took the internet by storm for lying about being a billionaire angel investor, well, he was scamming his family and friends into thinking he was an NFL player. In March of 2014, Travion Rogers began to document his journey into the NFL. He was a recent college graduate, and he would notify his family and friends on Facebook that he had plans on joining the NFL and that, in fact, a few NFL teams had shown interest in him. According to him, two of those teams were the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans. Now, he would claim that at the Miami Dolphins tryout, he did really well and he blew all the coaches away with his really fast 40-yard dash. Travion Rogers would claim that at the Miami Dolphins tryout, he ran a 4.27 40-yard dash and had the coaches impressed. He would also alert his family and friends that on top of the Miami tryout, the Houston Texans were also calling him in for a tryout, and he would be going to try out for the Texans as well. Now, eventually, after both tryouts, Travion Rogers would then showcase a contract from the NFLPA where he would tell his family and friends he finally signed his first NFL contract, and he would actually be signing to the Miami Dolphins. Travion wouldn't stop there. He would create a Twitter account where he would pose as a Miami Dolphins player and act like he was going to practice, coming back home, and essentially tweeting as if he was an actual NFL player. This was truly psychotic. Absolutely psychotic. Now, Travion's lies wouldn't hold up for too long because after a while, his family and friends became really suspicious because he wasn't playing in any games. He wasn't on the official roster. So they were asking, like, are you sure you're part of the Dolphins? But what really blew his lies open was when he would post his highlights and folks began to notice, like, those don't look like Travion running. Like, that's not Travion in those highlights. Well, who are they? Travion told his family and friends that because he was a track star, the NFL took notice of him and wanted him to come and try out, even though he never played football in his life. But come to find out, that wasn't true either. Not only was the NFL not interested in Travion, but Travion never ran track. He actually stole the footage and the highlights from Eli Hall, a decorated American track star. This is when things really began to unravel. Because if Travion is lying about doing track, then that means he's not in the NFL, because why would the NFL take a random guy off the streets and, give him a contract? So then folks began to ask themselves, okay, so if that's not him running track, then who is the guy in his football highlights? Well, that was discovered fairly quickly as well. It turned out it was Wes Bless. This was the man that Travion Rogers was cosplaying as, that he was the actual football player and not Travion Rogers. Wes Bless would take to his Instagram to say, him using those tapes and sending it to the Miami Dolphins was a wild time. So apparently, like, Travion Rogers not only tried to scam his family and friends into thinking he was an NFL player, he tried to scam the Miami Dolphins into actually getting a tryout. This has to be a mental illness. This brother has to be diagnosed by somebody. This is utterly insane. Now, if things would have stopped here, it would have been outright egregious, but for the most part, it was a victimless crime. He didn't really harm nobody. It really wasn't something that was criminal. He was just a liar. But after Travion Rogers got exposed for not being in the NFL, he didn't pivot and go away. He pivoted and actually doubled down and put his foot on the gas pedal for more scams. His next scam was running an exotic rental company. But here's the thing. Travion had no credit. He was kind of homeless at the time. He had no money. So how was he running an exotic rental company? Well, he wasn't. He was scamming. See, instead of running a legit rental car company, what Travion Rogers would do, he would make various profiles, put the cars up for rent, take people's payment in advance, and then just outright block them, give them the runaround, and never give them a car to rent. Now, he was finding pictures of these cars from actual legit rental car companies, so it wasn't long until his entire plot was blew up and folks began to alert the actual rental car companies. Now, one of the owners of the rental car companies that Travion Rogers would steal pictures from, he would actually make a Facebook post pretty much explaining, hey, listen, bro, like, those are my cars. Those are not his cars. I don't know this man. He has no affiliation with us. He's scamming. Be warned at your own risk. This time around, though, Travion Rogers' lies and scams wouldn't just lead him into people exposing him. He wouldn't just be able to pivot and move on. He would actually pivot into a jail cell because he was actually arrested for this and charged with fraud. Now, he was able to get away with a suspended sentence, so he didn't actually do any jail time, but nonetheless, though, he was still convicted. This wouldn't serve as a deterrent, though, because Travion would rack up a dozen more arrests since his first arrest. Not only did he not stop scamming, not only did he not stop doing crime, but he actually upped his ante. Now, instead of doing an exotic car rental scam, he actually pivoted to identity theft. Now, he would use his fraudulent credit repair agency to steal people's social security numbers and their identity, and he would open up various credit accounts in their names, get apartments in their name, and pretty much financially bankrupt them until their credit freeze after they find out what was going on. One of his victims actually spoke out against them on Twitter, and she was pretty irate. She claims the FBI is currently investigating Travion, but she also said, yep, he first stole my identity 9 years ago when I was 19 or 20. He opened up credit cards, applied for luxury vehicles, and more using my credit. It's been an ongoing issue since. He even managed to get around my credit freeze in 2021 and open up a bank account under my social again. She actually goes on to claim that not only did he steal her identity and she got her credit report freeze, but after 2021, he would actually rent out an apartment in her name and then not pay the rent at all. And the owners of the apartment finally figured out what was happening and then contacted her via Facebook to notify her that they think this man is using her identity fraudulently. These are messages of the landlord notifying her exactly what took place. Here's the crazy part. The landlord will claim that he scammed her too. I don't know how. How do you scam your landlord? The Egyptian Rose had a lot of information on Travion. Like, she was exposing this man left to right. And Travion wasn't happy about this. He actually contacted her to threaten her. But within his threats, we truly saw how manipulative and cunning Travion really is. You see, Travion contacted Egyptian Rose, but when he contacted her, he would spell his name wrong on purpose, so he could still say, oh, that wasn't me, I wouldn't even spell my name wrong. But he contacted her, made threats, and even threatened to put her in a hearse, essentially threatening to kill her if she keeps on exposing him. This is quite possibly the greatest rise to fall and the quickest I've ever seen on the internet. Like, even the white people who get caught saying the N-word after they go viral for something positive, it usually takes a couple days or a week. Travion, went viral, and within an hour, he was already being exposed for being a fraud and a scam. Now, even folks who've known Travion since they were kids came out and said that he was really bizarre and weird as a kid, and he would torture animals as well. Travion is sick, really sick, and he's a fraud as well. But, we're going to leave that there, all right? It's your boy, Poetic Flacco. Like the video, sub to the channel, comment for the algorithm, man. Peace.
Pretty boy with some nice J's. Keep a low cut, a good kid, but both my best friends keep a pole tuck. So if your ex mad, tell that nigga stay mad. Cause now you